Today we are going to talk about deschooling, and we're going to talk about why homeschool families talk about deschooling so much. Well, after this video, you're going to know so much about deschooling and that term and where to begin and who needs to do it and how it's done, so much so that you are going to be schooling so many people on this term, deschool. So my name is Leilani. I am actually a former public and private school teacher. I am now a homeschool mom to 4 wonderful kids. The youngest does have Down syndrome. And so we are going to talk about deschooling in this video. Defining deschool according to the internet. It says that deschooling is that transitional period from when you leave the public school education world and move into the homeschool world. That's the basic definition according to the internet. I would like to add to that a little bit. Deschooling is going to be this process of getting the public school mindset out of your mind. I think a lot of you are thinking this right now because I know I definitely did. It's not going to happen quickly. It's not an overnight thing, right? So let me give you some basic steps to deschooling and how to get yourself started with deschooling. I am going to make another video where I share with you how I deschooled, my process of deschooling. And I would also like to share at this moment that I am continuing to deschool because I think deschooling goes in phases. But let me address how you can simply start deschooling. And as you start that process, you're going to find that your deschooling is going to look different from everybody else's because everybody actually has had a different experience with the public school setting. So usually the people that tell you to deschool are telling you this because you have a child that's in the public school system and you are going to transition them out of the public school system and start homeschooling them. There's a lot of nerves and fear and all these emotions that are involved with the parents because, I mean, it's intimidating. It's completely overwhelming and you don't even know where to start. You just know for whatever reason you want to pull them out of the public school system and bring them home because you're not happy with it and what's going on. I also would like to add, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, that us as parents have to deschool. Those of us that went through the public school system. So it's not just a process for the child that is being pulled out of the public school system, but it's also a process for those of us that were public schooled and experienced nothing but public schooled. And that also goes for you parents that never sent your kids to public school and you knew from the get-go you were going to homeschool, but you still went to public school. You too also need to deschool as you begin this lovely process. I'm going to focus in first and check the timestamps down below because hopefully that'll guide you to what area of this video you're going to watch. But I'm going to first hone in on those families that are pulling out their kids from public school and the process of what deschooling should look like. And then I'm going to flip over to those families that really it's the parents that need to be deschooled and you're starting your kids straight out from kindergarten, preschool, well, basically out of the womb. So let's look at the parents that are pulling their kids out of public school system. And I would like to argue the private school system. So the first thing that you should do as a parent, I would get a journal if you like to write. Just get it, pull it out, have it ready to go, because during this process, you are going to learn a lot about yourself and a lot about your child and a lot about homeschooling. So get a journal, especially if you are a journal writing person. Now, if you're not a journal writing person, okay, skip this step and jump to number 2. Read a lot of books. Learn a lot of things. I would stress, 1, learn about the history of the public school education and the motivation behind all of that. It's an eye-opener. I have a video on it. I've done extensive research on this. The video is in the iCards. Check it out. I'll also put it at the end of this video if you want to listen to it or watch it. It's a video, so you can watch it. The second thing is go out there and read books on homeschooling. I have a book that I published. It's down in the description box below. It's called Freedom to Learn. But there's also another one that's also very popular, which is great, which is Homeschool Bravely. Both of those are down in the description box below if you want to check those out. But learn about homeschooling and the philosophy behind homeschooling. Of course, as you're doing this, you're going to find other books that you're going to read having to do with homeschool, and you're going to jot all this down in your journal. Third step which probably should have been the second, but whatever, they're interchangeable. The third step is you do want to plan a time frame of, it's going to take like 6 months. A good 6 months where you are just not really schooling. And that's why during this 6-month process, and this is actually why deschooling looks so different for everyone, you are getting to know your child, learning who they are, and getting to trust each other again. And this is the time where you really, if you journal, write it all down, remind yourself who your children are, remind yourself who you are, and really start to develop those homeschool philosophies and those family philosophies that you had. Really understand why you want to homeschool. Look, it's going to change possibly over time. It's going to develop. It's going to refine over time, and don't be afraid to modify that. But you do want to really start create your reasons why you want to homeschool. Now, don't be legalistic on all of this, okay? You may come up with your reasons for homeschooling right off the back, and they never change. This is why it looks different, right? Or you may be one of those people that it literally takes you the full 6 months to really refine why you're homeschooling. Some of you are going to take 2 weeks and you know why you're homeschooling. You have it refined, detailed, laid out, all the things. Don't stop deschooling just because you get those things down. Continue to learn, continue to build that trust, continue to just seek a good relationship with your child and your family. Build that bond, build that connection. That's the one thing that's so beautiful about homeschool, is because it is about family connection and family trust. A lot of kids are getting pulled out of the public school system because of a situation that was so possibly traumatic for them. Coming in a homeschool setting, they're scared. And they're having to regain trust with their parents, because some of them will be mad at their parents for even allowing them to go into that school setting. There are other situations where there's behavior issues and the parents force them to come into homeschooling, and they resent their parents because, why did you make me do this? And there's anger there. There's this also, some kids will go through this period where they're like, oh my gosh, I'm not around my friends. I feel so antisocial. What's going on? And there's so many emotions that happen during this deschooling phase. And that's why it's so important not to worry about crunching the books, crunching the academics, but instead focus on relationship building and trust. So that's why there's always this 6-month period that people like to throw at you to get you guys focused on relationship first. Relationship first. Now, I'm thinking that should have been number one, but they all kind of run together, right? Okay, so number 4 really does need to come after you start to develop your philosophy behind homeschooling, and that is finding your tribe, finding your people that you click with. There are so many different philosophies within homeschooling. You've got the unschoolers, you got the classical conversations, you got the Christians, you got the Muslims, you got the secular homeschoolers, you got I said unschoolers, right? That's a really big popular one lately. You've got the Charlotte Masoners. I don't think that's actually a term. I just made it up. But the point is that you've got all these different groups of homeschool moms that have different priorities and different reasons for homeschooling. And once you've established your reason, that's your chance to go up there and find your people. There's many, many different ways you can find it. Facebook is great. Facebook, you can communicate with the community, with the tribe. Instagram, you can get ideas. Pinterest. Then there's co-ops, which I love co-ops. Co-ops are the way that we keep our kids interacting with other kids. And find a homeschool co-op that fits with your philosophy and fits with your family. It may take a little bit more than 6 months to do that, but you can start the process at 6 months. Also know that finding a co-op, sometimes you have to switch it up here and there. People will start a co-op, not like it, do another co-op the next year, not like it, and then the third year they find one that they fit with. I've been a part of co-ops that I've loved. I've also been a part of co-ops that didn't work for us after a certain point of time. So understand it's not it's different for everybody, that whole process of finding the perfect co-op. But the point is to find your people, find your tribe, talk to them, get to know them, and build community, connect with them. Number 5, and I think this one is super important, but you have to allow yourself to change your mindset, change your view on things, allow yourself to be flexible. Of course, within reason, of course, and you have your boundaries that you set up, but don't feel like you have to imitate the public school anymore. You may find that you want to, but don't feel like you have to in order to meet certain benchmarks. And see, that is kind of the reality behind homeschooling in general, is that you don't fit in that box anymore. You are outside of the box. You get to design how you want to homeschool your kids, what suits them best, because every single child is different. And you should never, ever, ever allow the educational system to feel like they're breathing down your neck all the time, because in reality they're not. It's an intimidation factor, it's a fear factor, and we hold on to those things, and it prevents us from doing the things that we want to do or the things that we feel are needed for our kids in order for them to learn and to be successful in life. So that's a whole nother thing. I do like to talk about that in my book. Also in my video, once again, it's down in the description box below, where I talk about the history of home education, because there's a lot of that. There's a lot of stuff there. So please watch that video. So now, for those of you that decided to start homeschooling your kids as soon as they exited the womb, I get it. I was one of those, but I was also public school trained. Oh, and even worse, I was public school teacher trained. Yes. That's the worst, guys. It's worse. But honestly, all those things, I probably should have had you guys watch all of those 1 through 5 reasons, because they do apply, but they apply to you, the parent, more than the child, in all honesty. So just as a review, the first one, of course, is to get a journal. You want to get a journal. And the second one is to read a lot of books, read a lot of homeschool books, read a lot of books about the history of public education, understand what the motivation behind the public school education was, just getting yourself equipped with information. Number 3 is to take time off. Now, okay, so number 3 might be a little bit different for you, because you aren't pulling your kid out from the public school system and needing that 6-month break. Instead, you're starting fresh from the beginning. And so instead of focusing on teaching your kids that stuff, feeling that pressure, feeling like the school system is breathing down your neck and that you've got to get your kid reading at the age of 2, because that really does start to happen for some. There starts to be like this little competition. You get it, I know. We need to quit that. Every child is different. Every child learns at their own pace, and every child is going to develop in certain areas and abilities better than other kids. Don't feel pressured to get your child to do certain things at a certain level when they're not ready to. You work at their own pace. That's one thing that's so nice about homeschooling, is that there's no grade levels. And it freaks people out. Like in the state of Florida, we by law, unless we're involved with something with the education world and the public school system world, by law, we don't need to disclose the grade to an evaluator or to the state or anybody, because with homeschool, there really isn't a grade level. So for those of you that are deschooling from the womb and deschooling yourselves, don't let yourselves be sucked into that. Now, number 4 was finding your tribe and finding the people in your co-op and all the things. And number 5 was allowing yourself to change. So now that we talked about the 5 basic steps to deschooling, I think we all need to understand that we will continue to deschool our kids and ourselves for the rest of our lives. And I'm not joking about that. It is a thing. Every journey looks different. And like I said, some people will decide to quit. It's how far you want to take it and how serious you are about your philosophies. But like I said, everybody's different. Everybody's deschooling looks different. So with that being said, I am going to be planning to share with you my journey with deschooling, especially since I honed in on one area. There's one area specific that I struggled with when it came down to deschooling. And I deschooled it, and I'll talk about it. I'm also going to try to make it a collab, and if I'm able to do that, I will go ahead and put the playlist up there in the corner as well as my video up here. Thank you guys. Oh, history one of public school education, right there. Got to check that one out. It's a must to open your eyes. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you got something out of it, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.